Welcome. Welcome to ALPOUGH, where I'm an adult of my spirit. I'm an adult of my mind. I'm an adult of my thought. I'm an adult of my body and my love, and I want to give it out to you. I hope you're having a great day. Hope you're drinking your water. Okay, this is a time that we have to absolutely be hydrated. And I always suggest everyone drink a gallon a day. Depending on your weight, you should always be drinking a lot of water, especially in these times. Today is like, my life is, I've done so many things in my 64 years here. And my experience has created spiritual wisdom and everything for myself. And so I've had kind of what you call a very, very interesting life. And it's getting more interesting as each day comes along. So thank you all for coming in now. And those will be coming in later. All right. A lot of people watch me later. And because I know you're working. And it'll be time. And I appreciate your time. And I appreciate all your comments. You can say anything you want. I even like funny jokes. And we all learn from them, and we're all going to keep learning together, all right? So today's an interesting subject because I think it's going to bring some closure just even to me and maybe for you too. And so I want to go off into this about why I left California. Why I left California, number 175. Now, in 1975, I graduated from high school, okay? And I wanted to move to Los Angeles, so I decided to move to Los Angeles. Now, the reason why I did, just to let you know why I left California was spiritual. And I'm going to go into that. You see, everything's spiritual to me. I'm more spiritual than I am physical. And I consider myself a spiritual being, humble, but confident in the spirit. Like I said, I am more spiritual than I am physical. So I decided to move to Los Angeles. I graduated from high school, and literally, it was May of 1975. The war was over, so there was no draft anymore. Yes, I was around on the last month of the draft. There hasn't been a draft since April of 1975, which is about 150 years ago. Somewhere in that range, 40, 50 years, 40-something years, 40-something years it's been since that. So I decided to move to Los Angeles right after I graduated. It was like literally I graduated in May, and in June, I'd already decided I'm moving to Los Angeles. And while all my friends and, graduate people from high school and everything were off going to college, most went to college, and a lot of the men joined the military. And so when it came time to me, people asked me, what was my goal? And my goal was to turn 21 in Los Angeles. So no matter what, the whole goal was to turn 21 in Los Angeles. Now, when I was a child, we never really went on any vacations, okay? Matter of fact, the only vacation that I went on was when I had just turned 3. I always ask people, one of the things I ask people is, what is your first memory? What's the first memory that you can recall? In other words, when did you consciously begin to know that you were living? Okay? And so mine was, my birthday's May 25th. And So I just turned 3. And then my baby brother was born in June of that month, because we're 3 years apart. And then in literally July, I think it was July, that we went on our only vacation that we've ever gone on. And it was to go to California. My father had a sister that moved to Los Angeles. And so we went out to see them. So I'm just going to tell you, my first memory was that I can remember was I turned 3 and we were at the train station. And my first memory is seeing these huge locomotive trains. I was holding my mom's hand, I think, maybe my dad's. And I was looking up and I just couldn't believe this picture. And then I remember the train ride and going into the caves and everything like that when you go through, the tunnels. And then, of course, the big thing was going to Disneyland. And Disneyland had kind of just opened. I think it was 1960 that it opened, the Disneyland. Now, it might have been a year or so before that, but it would just open. And so we took the car that we drove, and we went to Disneyland. And now my little brother, there was 3 of us at the time. We have 5 now, but at the time, so it was my older brother and I. And we're at Disneyland. And of course, who do you want to see? Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse. So now I remember walking, and there's Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse. And they had these huge heads, right? So I didn't know at that time that there was a person in there, okay? So my mom and dad, of course, wanted me to take a picture. And so my brother and I, we're literally scared out of our minds. Because remember, Mickey Mouse, here's a big old mouse, right? And so we held hands with them. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was scared out of my mind. Out of my mind. I'm shaking, okay? Because I'm like so scared. But that picture, which is somewhere, it's one of my absolute earliest memories, and then going on the rides. So literally that time in California was etched in my mind of all these cool things, the beach, and I remember seeing the ocean, and it was just mind-blowing. I lived near a lake, Lake Jacomo. Wasn't very big in Kansas City. So now here later on, and as I've looked back on my life, I knew that it was already implanted that I was going to move to Los Angeles. And so when I moved there when I was 20. Couldn't get there. It took me a couple years to just get it together to move. And of course, my whole family tripped out because here I am. I'm leaving and I'm moving 2,000 miles away. And of course, they were concerned about me. But, at that time, it was the best time for me. I grew up. I became a man in Los Angeles. One of the reasons why I wanted to be there was because I wanted to be in the music business. And I played the piano when I was a kid, but we moved and my dad didn't take the piano. But I definitely did want to go back into the music business. I sang, and of course, I ended up starting writing and self-taught myself how to play the piano and guitar. So it was the music business. I loved the beaches. I love the women, and I love the action of just being there. There's nothing like being in Los Angeles and California, okay? And the really cool thing about being in California and Los Angeles in particular is you just never know who you're gonna meet. You never know, okay? And so I'm just going to give you, I've met at least 100 celebrities in my time. And for the most part, I'm just going to say I met at least 100. I would say that 99 out of the 100 were all friendly, because it is the way that you approach them. And so for me, I'm just going to give you, these just came to me, but I thought you might want to know this. So one of the first guys I met was Tom Cruise. And I met Tom Cruise at a restaurant. He had just done Risky Business. And we had just a short conversation. He was extremely nice. And he was with Rebecca De Mornay. And just the nicest person in the world, really. Didn't talk to him very long, but again, he was a really nice guy. I also met Arnold a number of times. Arnold was, he used to drive around in a pink 57 Cadillac. I lived in Westwood, Santa Monica, so I'm on the west side. And Gold's Gym was one of the places that he hung out with. Now, when I said 99 out of 100 were friendly, Arnie wasn't. Okay, Arnie wouldn't even speak to you. Okay, I saw him a number of times and he still doesn't speak. He didn't speak. You yell his name out, he wouldn't even look at you. You could look at him though. But again, he went on to become a huge star. Now I heard he's friendly now. I heard he's real friendly now. Jeff Bridges. I met Jeff Bridges. You remember Jeff Bridges? He was huge. Major star. He was a major star at the time. I was living in Santa Monica. We were in Haagen-Dazs. And I met him 3 times. He'd pull up in a Maserati. Just the friendliest guy. Just literally the friendliest guy in the world was Jeff Bridges. It's so cool. So cool. I even met his dad, Lloyd Bridges. Remember Sea Hunt? He was, he was very famous for that show that he did, Sea Hunt. All right. I met him at a gas station in a white Seville Cadillac. So I'm pumping gas, talking to him. Just the nicest guy in the world was Mr. Bridges. May he rest in peace. Great guy. Absolutely great guy. Now, one of my favorites was MAUREEN McCormick of the Brady Bunch, who I had the biggest crush on as a kid. And I actually met her in my Bible study and actually spent some time talking to one of the nicest, sweetest people in the whole wide world was MAUREEN McCormick. And she was a dream to me to meet, and just fantastic person. Robert Mitchum, one of the greatest actors of our time. I met him in Santa Barbara eating dinner. We were sitting right next to him. Very friendly guy, didn't really bother him, but definitely said hello to you and acknowledged. Great guy. I used to hang out in Malibu. And Barbara Streisand, of all people, is sitting right next to me eating lunch. Back then, Malibu was not like it is now, a little bit more commercialized now. It was just, this is back in the 70s, and a friendly person, said hello. You don't like to, one of the things about him, you don't want to come up and just start talking to him. If you say hello, how are you? Fine, how are you? That's great, see? And again, she was very, very friendly. Don Knotts. I met Don Knotts. He used to go to the health food store. I lived in Hollywood. I lived in Westwood. I lived in Santa Monica. Those are basically the three areas that I lived in, and I met Don Knotts. Really nice guy, very quiet. You'd think he'd be loud or everything, but actually very quiet person. Jasmine Guy, Different World, Harlem Nights. She was in, I forgot the name of that death show on Showtime. She was a cop. One of the nicest people you could also meet. Very focused on what she was doing. Incredible person. Really glad I met her. Number 10, and not least, but KAREEM Abdul-Jabbar, one of my favorite athletes. I could name a whole bunch of other athletes, Marcus Allen, but KAREEM Abdul-Jabbar was my favorite. And I actually had a conversation with him. We met at the Good Earth, and I had read an article about him that he didn't mind being approached, but he just got sick of people asking him about a basketball game. So he had just done Airplane, okay? The movie, which he was good in, by the way. It's really funny. And I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, you were really great in Airplane." And he's like, "Well, thank you." I'm like, "Yeah, it was really funny. I didn't know you were that funny." And then I asked him, "Are you gonna do any more movies?" And he said, "Well, I'd like to, but training camp is getting ready to come on, and so I'm probably gonna have to wait. But yeah, I definitely want to do some stuff." And just kind of left it there. Then I'm upstairs because the Good Earth was down on in the basement floor. So I'm up there by the bookstore. Here he comes, walking, and this Westwood, by the way, is UCLA. All right, and this is where you would see all these great athletes, who I don't want to go into now, but the cool thing about it was when he walked by and he saw me and he goes like this, like that. It was really cool, really cool. So I moved there in 1977, and then I decided that I left in 1991. And the reason why I left was because I was burnt out. I wasn't making it after 14 years of trying to get in the music business. And like a lot of people, you just get frustrated and you just kind of need to get out and just kind of put it behind you. I was already in my mid-30s, and I just needed a change of scenery. And so I left, but then I came back 16 years later. And so I moved there in 2007, and then I left in 2013. And I thought absolutely for sure I would be in California for the rest of my life. And I'm sure a lot of people have said that, who've left. And so now the reason why I left, and the situations now, is just, here we are 7-8 years later, and it's much, the reason why I'm talking about now is even much more complicated. But it was overpopulated. Okay. it's always, lots of people there in California. But now if you look back here, where is it? You look back here, and this is the 405. And this is traffic, of 405. The kind of the main west highway that goes from all the way down to Torrance, down to Orange County. It goes all the way up past the valley, over the hill. We called it over the hill. From the west side, you go over the hill, and there's the valley. And so the 405, this is how the 405 is almost all day long. There was never a time when there wasn't this heavy duty traffic. So the traffic was much, much worse. Much worse. I thought it was bad then. But it's in a whole nother level. And I could imagine what it is now. I've gone back there. And each time, there is no time when there is no traffic. It's just the way it is up there in Los Angeles. The rent or the cost of living there was just horrific. And when I was going to go to Los Angeles, I really was, and then it just came down to it. All right, so here's one of the things that happened to me. All right, so I went back to some of my old neighborhoods, right? Santa Monica, Hollywood, West LA. All right. So now even back then in the 70s, all right, so like here I am, I had an apartment. I had an apartment in Hollywood. All right. I wanted to live in Hollywood. I loved living in Hollywood. And I had a 1-bedroom, and it was $500, which was very high. At that time, it's very high. But when you're living on the west side, it's not. It's kind of normal. So I went back to go see this place, and it was $1,500. $1,500. I went to my place in Santa Monica, which my rent was it was $850 or something like that for a large 2-bedroom apartment. It was huge. It was $2,500. $2,500. Gas. When I left Los Angeles in 1991, it was 99 cents. And now it was $4.50. I had a truck that used to cost me almost $100 to fill up when I got back to California. Almost $100 to fill up your tank. When another time would have been only $26. Also, the state tax is 13.5%. State tax. That doesn't include federal or local. Literally, the gas, literally the tax on it, if you break down all the taxes on what you pay for a gallon of gas, it's incredible. So here it is, 13.5%. And also, it looked like it was a third world country. And if you see it now, and the homeless, I've gone back quite a few times since I moved here to Arizona, which I'll talk again, another talk about why I moved to Arizona. And so if you're going off an exit, if you're going on an exit or an entrance to a freeway, it is lined on both sides with tents. Literally. Tents. That goes way out from the entrance as well as the exit. And so the homeless, which I'm not knocking the homeless, okay? You know, anybody can get under. There was always a saying in Los Angeles that most people are 2 months max being homeless. So if you missed 2 months of work, you literally could be homeless. So during this time between 2007 and 2013, I moved 12 times in 7 years. 12 times. And it's only because you literally couldn't afford an apartment. So I would rent rooms, you know, out of houses. Craigslist came up. You could, you know, that was totally different. There was no internet you know, when I lived there the first time. So, but Craigslist, you could find a place. Then I moved into a place, and then you just wouldn't know who was living with you and what their background was and all that. And so that really made it hard. I didn't feel safe. A lot of times, cops busted one of the houses that I lived in. I didn't even know who was living there. It was a huge house. I just had a room. Next thing I know, the cops come in looking for a guy who was some big-time heroin dealer. I didn't even know what heroin looked like. So this really started getting frustrated again. And the last place that I lived in, the very last place that I lived in, it was very difficult. Again, it became a renter's market, you know, so people were just raising the prices up. So in the last place that I lived in, when I was totally finished, was the only place I could get was one room in a house for $1,000 for one room. And this just, I realized, and I was self-independent. You know, I was self-employed, and so, you know, I had to always make sure, you know, if you have a bad month, you gotta make sure when you have a good month that you save money just in case you have a bad month the next month. And it only takes one bad month. Okay? Because if you do not pay your rent, you get evicted. Quick. And I mean quick. If you're late for your rent, you have an eviction notice on the 2nd. Okay, if you're not there on the 1st, you're going to get an eviction notice on the 2nd. So I really was starting to, you know, really get burnt out. And then really one of the things was people were not friendly anymore. You know, I came back at this and I said that it was spiritual. And I could see the actual spirit of this place was changing. Now, I have still lots of friends back there, and there's lots of good people there, all right? So you know who you are. You know I love you. We're talking about the state of California, and there are still great people there. I'm not kidding you. There are great people there. But it was just, you know, it just wasn't friendly anymore. It just really wasn't friendly. So I mentioned about, you know, the check to check with no money saved. But again, you know, it's really hard. And most of my friends, I am not kidding you, will work 4 jobs. 4 jobs. I still got friends that have 4 jobs. and there's no time to actually enjoy the actual surroundings. And so I knew that I would never be able to afford a house, ever. I would never be able to. The average house in California is $800,000. That's the average house in California. You used to see these little 2-bedroom shacks that were going for $750,000. Shacks. Okay? Now, the final real thing was the spiritual darkness that permeates more than anything Los Angeles. There is just, and it still is, it just started to be getting dark, and it's getting darker. And that is my opinion, but it is true. And I think that most people, there's a lot of people I know that have left California. People are leaving in droves now, all right, for better lives in other states. And that's why I moved to Arizona, which I'll go into in my part 2 on why I moved to Arizona and all the great things about Arizona that I really love. And one of the main things that I really love about Arizona is the people. The people. People don't even say hello to you in LA. Now, man, out here, everyone talks. Everyone's friendly. It's not like you want to come up and have a conversation and say, you know, are you married? Where's your kid? How much do you make? It's just people are much more friendlier, even in the heat. And so this is why I left California. And if you're thinking about moving there, really look it up. Make sure you got a great job and make sure you have some support out there. Okay? So I want to thank you all for coming here. Let me see if I got any comments. Tracy, I know my kids were afraid of Mickey at that age. Yeah. And Santa Claus. Remember the first time you said on Santa Claus? Oh my gosh, you talk about scary. Who's this bearded red dude, right? Okay, Tracy lived in San Diego. Tracy actually lived there before. I met Tracy in Arizona. The first week I moved to Arizona, I met Tracy, my wife. So my luck changed the moment I moved to Arizona. I mean it. So she lived in San Diego and I was up north. But we actually crisscrossed onto each other. And that's a whole nother story. I can't wait to tell you the story about how my wife and I met. So, you know, I hope this helps anyway. Just to let you know a little bit more about me. You know, I'm here to give you any kind of knowledge, spiritual knowledge, but I wanted to just take some time and tell you a little bit about me and how my life has evolved and why I'm in Arizona and why I am talking to you. So, ALPOUGH. That's me. And I love you. And I'll be back tomorrow. Same time. Okay? Have a great day, everybody. Today's Thursday. We only got one more day. Here comes the weekend. Listen, subscribe to my channel down here. Just click on the button. And then I've got some other videos. If you want to know a little bit about me, please check it out. I'll